This being the time and place of this specially called August 11th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting, I would like to call us in order. Please call the roll.
Gordon. Tate.
Here.
Way.
Here.
Larry. Temple. Here. Burrows.
Here.
Pike. Mosher. Here. Bullard. Here.
All right, we have a quorum. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the Planning Commission members and give a brief description of what we're going to do today. The Commission has 9 members. 8 of us are volunteers appointed by the Mayor for a 6-year term. We also have 1 member from the City Council. My name is Larry Way, and I serve as the Secretary. Gary Borden is our Chairman, who is not able to be here today, and our Vice Chairman, Eddie Pike, is also absent. Other members are Francis Tate, Stephen Mosier, Myrna Burrows, Francis Temple, Barry Bullard, who is a City Council member. Ross Terry is also a member and not here today. The only parts of the business today is that we are going to be reviewing is zoning text amendments. This is a change or update in the zoning regulations. Any adjustments must be approved by both the Planning Commission and the City Council in order to be adopted. So at this time, I will turn the meeting over to Chad Bowman.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you all for coming to this session for us to look over these zoning text amendments. I'll go through each section, and as far as I understand, you would have to vote on each section, and some sections may contain multiple definitions or multiple descriptions of the changes. I'll try to navigate you all and give you context behind each change in particular so that it's understandable and you can make a sound decision. So the zoning text, this is zoning text amendment 252-26. The effect of the proposed amendment will be to amend the following sections. Section 25-1.8.5, Section 25-1.10, Section 25-2.2.9, Section 25-2.4.5, Section 25-3.4.2, Section 25-4.2.2, Section 25-5.9.6, and Section 25-8.3. As mentioned, this is several different changes. Some of them pertain to definitions, the use chart, et cetera, et cetera. If you have any questions after I read a particular section, I'll be glad to answer them and we can have dialogue on this zoning text amendment. So Section 1. This zoning text amendment requests that all sections beginning with Section 25-1.10, the effective date of the zoning ordinance rewrite, Code of Decatur, Alabama. Basically, this is saying the ordinance shall become effective on January 1st, 2026. When the ordinance was written, it was supposed to be incorporated and implemented and effective on January 1st, 2025. So we need to amend any references in the zoning ordinance that says January 1st, 2026. So, we approved it for January 1st, 2026 when we took it to City Council, and they approved it. We just never changed the language in an actual document to reflect January 1st, 2026. Okay.
Do we need to vote on that?
I would think we vote on each section.
Each section?
Yes.
So this section showing that this edited edition will be January 1, 2026.
Yes, sir.
Right. Do I have a motion?
Motion approved.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion by Mr. Mosier, a second by Mr. Bullard. Do we have any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Tate.
Yes.
Way.
Yes.
Temple. Yes. Burrows.
Yes.
Mosher. Yes. Bullard. Yes.
Okay, next we have Section 2. This is to discuss zoning district transitions under the table column titled Zoning District in this ordinance. So basically, when we had the initial zoning, we had to transition all of the previous zonings to the new zonings based on their comparison and how relatively close they were to each other. So in the zoning ordinance, there was a zoning transition that went from M1A Expressway Commercial district, and it transitioned to community regional. And instead, it should have transferred and transitioned from M1A Expressway Commercial District to Community Commercial District. So that was more closely related. All of our zoning maps reflect that, and that was a correction that we had to make to clarify that transition went from M1A to CC rather than M1A to CR.
Do I have a motion to accept this addition?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Please call the roll.
Tate,
Yes.
Wade,
Yes.
Campbell. Yes. Burrows,
Yes.
Mosher. Yes. Fuller. Yes.
Okay, section 3. This subsection is 25-2.29. It says, building inspector of the Code of Decatur, Alabama is hereby amended as follows. This section specifically spoke about whom a building inspector would take their direction from. I'm the planning director, so I'm not over the building department or the permitting department. So we wanted to make that clarification. But there's also a reference that we'll make later in the document saying that the zoning ordinance will be implemented by the planning director and the planning staff. So in this case, it says, quote, any powers and duties delegated to the building inspector by the development director. Before, it didn't specify a development director or a planning director, it just said director. So we wanted to clarify that that means development director.
Development director or building director?
We don't have a title for a building director. We only have a development director.
So the items that are highlighted in this dark green,
Yes,
is that the change?
that's the change.
Okay, well, that says building director.
Correct. We don't have a building director. We have a development director with the city of Decatur. So forgive me, there might be an error on that part, but on the actual change in the ordinance, it's going to say development director.
So on section 2559,
We're going to vote for it to say any powers and duties delegated to the building inspector by the development director.
excuse me, there's not a development director in the city, it's a development manager, and then because they're under Dane.
Dane Shaw is the development director. And he's over the building department and the building inspectors. So this is to clarify that.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
Should that statement say any powers and/or duties delegated to the building inspector? From a legal standpoint, the word "and" means both have to exist. I guess that's a question for legal.
It can be either way.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept this edit? To state the duties delegated to the building inspector by the development director. Have a motion?
It's not going to be a meeting, so y'all don't have to formally vote unless you just want that for consensus.
Yeah, we were asked to vote on each section, so we'll just go ahead and do that.
You're going to vote on it? Okay,
We-
it's not going to be final though for purposes of an actual meeting to make changes.
Correct.
It's just going to be for getting them ready for vote, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Will this come back before the planning commission again?
Yes,
Okay.
So you're just
And we'll
making
vote
con-
on it then?
correct.
So this is a work session?
This is technically,
I intended it for
It's a meeting, but it's a work session because this is not in final form for y'all to vote on.
So we'll make corrections and vote on
There
it.
needs to be changes made to it.
So we just want to make this a little bit more informal.
So-
We can, yes.
So we really don't need to vote on every section at this point then?
You don't have to vote on it,
We can-
but a recommendation will be good. At least that way we can, when we go to the meeting, you'll know how you felt about that particular topic or how you would vote, so that it'll expedite it.
Do I have a motion to accept that at 25-2.2.9?
Yes, motion.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. We can move on.
Okay, section 4. This is a category that deals with major and minor site plans and distinguishing between the site plan as major and minor. Staff felt that it was important that whenever a site plan is submitted to the city in terms of like subdivision plans or a master development plan, that we are notified on the front end that it's a master development as much as they can possibly. Now, we understand that sometimes when development projects come before us, there are unforeseen things that'll happen. So what this says is that there are two types of site plan review under the ordinance: a major site plan review and a minor site plan review. Multiple phased developments constitute the need for a master plan to be submitted at the time of the first phase of the layout plan or before. So what this says is that if there's any knowledge or idea that they're going to go beyond the master plan, the site plan, and do multiple phases, like a phased approach where they may have 4 phases, that they should try at their best to disclose that at the beginning instead of bringing a piece to it and then bringing another piece, and then something may change in the design of that particular project. If they can master plan an entire site for the different elements, we would like to see that at the front, at the beginning.
So we are. Go ahead, Francis.
Did we miss this one?
Yes, we're going to go
Yeah.
back to that.
Oh, okay.
We're over here.
Okay.
So is that going to be a requirement, or is it going to be
It's really more of an encouragement. We do understand that projects change between the time they may start it or not, but if they can master plan it from the beginning, we would like to see that. We've had issues with development plans coming in a phased approach, particularly for subdivisions, and they might bring us the preliminary plat is divided into 4 phases, and then it's further subdivided into other phases. So they might start off with a phase 1, 2, and 3, and then they'll come back and do a 3A, a 3B, a 3C, and it's really confusing. So if they're gonna break it down into further elements, we would like to see that as much as possible on the front end.
Well, let me ask you,
requirement if it's made known there's multiple phases?
Right.
So we need to make it that they will bring in the major plan.
Excuse me?
What I'm hearing you say, we'll give them, they can or they can't. I mean, I think we need specific. If you want the major plan brought in all phases up front, that's what you should ask for, and they should abide by it.
Yes.
well, I'm thinking about the country club development. And they have several phases, they have different types of housing, they have commercial. So using that as an example, are you saying they would have to bring a plan for everything that they want to do at the site?
Theoretically, when they came to us for that plan development, they did, but we know it's not always set in stone either, but we at least know what is to come because they kind of sectioned it off and showed how they're going to master plan it. Like we just recently approved one of their preliminary plats for their first phase. So we would like to have knowledge of the different phases up front, if they can. Now, we do understand sometimes projects change with the financing of the project and the capital and that sort of thing, so that could be a little unforeseen, but
Right.
we
because
still want to encourage it.
Yeah, some of these plans, they may be 5 to 10 years, like
Correct.
using that as an example, that's a multi-year project. So what you're saying is the concept of what they want to do for the entire site is what you prefer to have at the front end.
Correct.
Understanding that that's not cast in stone, that you know, there may be changes.
Correct. That's just like a preliminary plat could change from the time it's a preliminary plat to the time it's a final plat. We're saying the same thing, except we want to see it in phases. We want to see the phase approach preliminarily, and then it could change before you get to the final. But as much as possible, we can see and know what's going to happen. Because sometimes we make decisions based on what we know, not aware of what could come up later, you know, but
Right.
just to have a great idea about what's happening.
This is already in the sub-regs anyway, so this is nothing new. It's just
Right.
zoning ordinance. And Ms. Myrna, from my previous job and other jobs, they do plan out 10 years. The different segments and different, they do it. And this development, the DCC, the one you're talking about, is a 10-year plan. And they did submit a master plan that was accepted by the city council. And if they deviate and change something significantly from that master plan, they do got to go get it looked at it by the city council.
Okay.
So they can always come back and amend it and change it, even with subdivisions. You know, what we don't want to see is that you do a preliminary plat and it's not in phases, but you did a preliminary plat for the entire development, not knowing it might go in phases. So we kind of encouraging the engineering firms too to talk with your client to make sure it's not going in phases, because we have to be sure that if you have a whole preliminary plat and it's divided and broken down into different phases, that when we final plat it, we want to make sure that bond is for that portion that you want to finish. But how can we do that if you further section off another piece of it? So we just need more finite information, because what we'll require then is, like, if you come back with you have a phase 4 and you do a 4A, we're going to want to see a preliminary plat for 4A. And then if you want a final 4A, we're going to expect a final plat for 4A and bonding specifically for 4A instead of all of 4. It's just a way to help us kind of follow along and track the project and have our documentation in alignment.
So, Chad, given that understanding, looking at WT4's comment there, just for clarity, should it be multiple phase developments require a master plan to be submitted at the time of layout plan phase 1 or before? I'm not sure it constitutes the right word. I think what you're saying is requires
Yeah.
a master plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Constitutes. So I would say multiple phased, past tense, developments, plural, requires a master plan to be submitted at the time of layout phase 1 or before. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Okay.
Definition. Sound right?
Yeah, I think you need to be specific, because if you get them an A and a R, of course, they're gonna do the best for them, not best for the city and what you all are planning.
Okay. So I'll change the language to require.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the word would be phase, not phases. Multiple phase development require a master plan to be submitted at the time of the layout plan phase 1 or before.
Could you repeat that?
That's over here in the comment, WT4.
Yeah.
I just eliminated the S on phases. Multiple phase development require a master plan to be submitted. So we eliminate constitutes and put require in there, and then it doesn't need to be phases, it needs to be phase. A multiple phase development.
Okay. Is this something we have a consensus on?
Yes.
Yes? Everybody good?
Okay. Let's look at section 5.
Well, we need to go back. You skipped one.
Okay.
Section 25-2.3.6.
Which one is that?
Letter C, 25-2.3.6, the letter C, you have that highlighted. Change the,
Let me correct you on that. So this document here, this is one that does not include everything that's going to be on this particular group of zoning text amendments. This is the one I've advertised. I haven't included everything yet because we're working through the document.
Right.
So it's some extras in there.
okay, so you're not going to address this?
I'm gonna lead you with the zoning text amendments we advertise.
All right.
Those things minor and what I have does not match.
Yeah.
What y'all were talking.
Because I'm going through the whole document to prepare it for you all to be able to see it when we bring the actual written legal zoning text amendments.
Okay, thank you.
So on this zoning text amendment, I'm gonna guide you to Section 9 of Section 25-3.4.2. And this is the section that deals with sidewalk cafe overlays. This section reads, all licenses issued for sidewalk cafes shall be subject to revocation in whole and part by the planning director or police chief. The part that we're going to edit and is hereby amended as follows. It says the portion of the sidewalk allotted for outside seating shall be delineated by an approved railing or other method of delineating the space not exceeding 4 feet in height that is not affixed to any portion of the sidewalk or other public property. It shall be approved by the building department with concurrence of the Downtown Redevelopment Authority and the Planning Department. To give you context, there's a downtown business owner that prefers to use one of the decorative dividers that's made out of metal, but it's movable and mobile, but it's more firm than the actual stanchions that people are using because they're made out of plastic with the chains and so forth. So he wants something more decorative and not movable. With that being said, he's shown me pictures of the railings, but we want to get an option to anyone who wants a railing to pick out the style that they will want it in, and it has to be approved by DDRA and the planning department. So what that means is we wanted to limit the height. As long as we had the appropriate height, they will have to get approval and review for the style of it, instead of just limiting it and being specific on style. As long as it's black and 4 feet high or whatever color that they choose, and it meets what DDRA would like to see downtown, and the planning department agrees with the site plan, showing that they'll give 60 inches of width for people to pass through and make it ADA accessible, it's okay with us on that site plan. But we want to ensure that the height goes no higher than 4 feet.
So
It's
is,
still a requirement not to be affixed.
It's still required not to be affixed. It has to be movable.
and then is there any stipulation for how wide a space they need to allow for people just walking down the sidewalk?
Yeah, 60 inches.
I think this may be better suited in a different subsection, because subsection 9 is about revocation of licenses. I think it probably needs to go in a prior subsection, granting them, and where it's.
Is it that the section that talks about
This
the
is-
railings?
This talks about when it's revoked by the director or police chief. And then the part where it sets it up with like the 60-inch is subsection 2.
Okay.
I think that'll need to be, you just need to make a note to make a change. to the-
Instead of 9.
Yeah, I think it needs to be somewhere.
What page? I'm lost.
This is what we're dealing with, but I don't see a section 9.
We're looking at section 18.
At 3.4.3, section 18, that's what we have, your notes that
Is
you
it-
just commented is right there.
It's in what subsection? 3.4.3?
3, yeah, number 18.
Okay.
18 needs to be moved out. I think that was something autocorrect must have changed because there's no 18.
Okay.
I think that was,
Well, we'll find an appropriate section. I was under the assumption it was 9, but
yeah, 9 talks about, it is to determine necessary advisable that the area on which the sidewalk cafe is located or any portion thereof be vacated in order for the site to be used for public purpose. In the event of a public emergency or construction or maintenance on or above or below such sidewalk, if it is found that a licensee has failed to comply with any of its provisions, and if there is a danger to public health. So I think it's,
I don't think we have a 9, do we?
No.
No, it's on page 3-49.
3-40?
You don't have that.
We don't-
I
Yeah,
don't have
no.
a
No, we don't have
3-49.
What she's referencing, you don't have.
she has the entire ordinance.
the entire code I brought.
Yeah.
with me, because we know
Okay.
how it plugs in, because I have not had a chance to review all of the details of all of this.
Okay.
To make sure, I just looked at what the topic was, not the.
The
That's where
specific.
legal, that usually doesn't do that until we know exactly where it's gonna go, and exactly how it's gonna be worded, then we review it for that purpose. So that's why I'm inputting while we're talking about it, because it's easier to fix it as we go along, in case there's another area.
Any other questions or comments on that particular change?
But just to expand on Bruce's comment, specifically 9, on that 3-49, which is the ordinance itself, and then paragraph 9.2, it already says that the found licensee has failed to comply with any of the provisions specified in the section of the ordinance. So if we refer back down to where Chad wanted to make a change on 18, that would be the part that would, I mean, if they violate 18, that's enforced by 9.2, right, Ruth?
It just needs to be 18 instead of 9. The second page is 18.
Okay.
The section that's listed there that talks about.
Under subsection
I think
18.
what got confusing is it's somehow gotten bolded on page 49, 349, and it shouldn't be, because it makes it look like it's a title.
Yeah.
And when you flip from that page to the next, it makes it look like it's falling under section 9, but it's actually its own section. It is just 18, but it's not the part that says planning director or police chief. So this would amend section 18 instead of section 9. And 18 says the portion of the sidewalk allotted for outside seating shall be delineated by a railing or other method of delineating the space that is not affixed to any portion. So that fits with what you have. So 18 is correct, 9 is not.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Chad, this is not the time to like bring up like a question on the other clauses, right? You know?
You can.
Just wondering on section 15, you know, so exclusive of any type of music amplified, you know, on sidewalk cafes. Is there a hard reasoning for that, you know?
For the noise, I think it's so that with sidewalk cafes, if they have entertainment or music, they're not bringing it outside. It's inside the building rather than outdoors. Now, we do have a situation where we have a sidewalk cafe that opens up to, are y'all familiar with Sunnyside Alley? It opens up to the back of Sunnyside Alley. Matter of fact, you all approved it. And they could use that public space for outdoor music. But the owner owns that whole building, so I think that's why it's less of an issue.
It just seems like it shall not be permitted, and even if it's like, you know, permit for it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And typically, if we have special events outdoors, there's a permit for that.
So shall not be permitted unless permitted.
Mark that down, because I do want you all to understand, if you see anything in the ordinance that you think needs changing, you can propose it, and then we'll discuss it and look at changing it before we bring it to city council.
Well, let me ask you, is it too much of a hassle to have anything about the sound, how many decibels they can have outside cafes or something? Is it too much of a hassle to try to?
I think our noise ordinance, I'm not sure, addresses that.
Covers the decibels usually. The city noise ordinance usually covers the decibels.
Okay, but it does not include sidewalk cafes.
Well, the noise ordinance covers everything, just noise, wherever it's from.
Well, then why can't sidewalk cafes if they stay within the,
If they stay within a certain decibel,
yeah, that's what.
I mean, that's something we can look at.
I mean, it might be
Okay.
too much of a hassle to control what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But, I see the conflict there. You say we got ordinance here that we got the decibel, but per se, you can't use it.
It covers sidewalk cafes. It's
So
just that
that
it's
mean
not
they can.
redundantly spoken. We have lots of ordinances that overlap, but we don't duplicate that in each ordinance. It's that they all combine to work together.
Okay, so they can do it without being fined. But you
Yeah,
don't-
yes, as long as they don't exceed the,
Yeah,
Right,
that's
as
what
long
I'm
as they don't
saying.
exceed the, I mean, they're restricted here, but the noise level is a separate ordinance, and that's something that covers all the areas the noise ordinance covers, which would be public area. I don't have it in front of me to read the exact.
Okay, but then to me, it would simply to say the sidewalk cafe has to be governed by our noise ordinance already in place.
Tracy, the only caution I would have on that, and I have absolutely no idea if this is true, the noise ordinance may make up something, 50 decibels up here, but 25 decibels of amplified noise next to an apartment building, stuff like that, could be annoying. So I think the intent is not to disturb the next door neighbor on the left, next door neighbor on the right, or if there's an apartment above. And that noise ordinance may be at a much higher level than
I would
what
think
would
if
be.
you all want to change something other than what we're being brought today, it might be better to
Yeah.
email that to Chad separately so that today we can focus just on what's before us because we haven't even gotten through the first and I don't want to waste y'all's time on things that aren't formulated currently because it will take another formulation. It's not a waste of time to go through that if there's an issue y'all want to resolve, but if you can formulate something in an email so that Chad can then put it in proper formatting so that y'all can discuss it intelligently with all the other, he can look at the ordinances involved in it. I think that would keep us on track today.
Okay, well, let me just say this also, I agree with you, but also, the amount of work you're asking us to do, to me, it's impossible to do it in 2 or 3 hours, 2 hours.
Oh, it is.
And send it to us overnight. You cannot expect us to come in.
You're right.
Do a just job to this, what you're asking us to do.
I will get it to you sooner, but we've been working on this for some time. It's a lot of work
I understand.
and putting the language and stuff together, so,
But what I'm saying, we need to take our time and do it.
yes.
Don't rush through it. That's what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
it'd be inefficient for the city and everybody else if we just rush through this thing. If we got to have 5 work sessions, that's what we need to do.
Agreed. And I'll do a better job of getting you the information, but I will also say too, if you have a chance to look through the ordinance, just kind of read through it. It's a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff to dissect and some things are working, some things are not. And sometimes we have to make changes in real time, which is difficult because we got to bring it to you all, then bring it to city council. And there's activities that's happening in the city that can't as a result of this. So moving on to the next topic. This is under residential and it might appear to be confusing, but it's really not. So this is about residential under the subcategory household living and the principal dwelling unit for single-family attached dwelling unit, for duplex and triplex dwelling units, live-work units, and townhouses. So in the narratives for the different zoning classes for all of our just about business zoning types, they allow for mixed use. But if you look at the use chart, you won't see that reflected. So in just about every zoning class, you can have any type of residential with the exception of like single family. Single family is more set aside for neighborhoods, large neighborhoods and so forth. But that does not disclude the fact that you may be able to do patio homes and small lot single family and some of these commercial land uses. So what I did was I went through and I read the descriptions of each of those commercial zoning classes to get a better understanding of what would fit in those zoning classes as it pertains to residential. We like to keep our subdivisions and neighborhoods relegated strictly for single-family detached homes. So this first category speaks to that, but it also shows how we can allow with a special use a single-family home in zoning like commercial neighborhood or community commercial if done right, which means that if someone proposed to do single-family homes in commercial neighborhood or community commercial, and they came with a development plan and a site plan, and they showed how they would place that within a commercial district, it could actually work, but it's by special use. So they would have to present to the Board of Zoning of Adjustment. When you read the narrative that describes community neighborhood, commercial neighborhood, and community commercial, you'll see where it makes room for residential. So the first change that we'll recommend is that single-family detached homes, of course, will be permitted in agriculture, residential estate, which it already is, RS10, residential single-family 7, that's common, RS5, residential manufactured housing, residential mixed medium density, and then we recommend a special use for commercial neighborhood and community commercial.
Now, is that part that's highlighted in the green, is that
Those,
permitted by right?
yes, but on that category, you should see a S for special use. Thank you.
I can't see what's in that green highlight.
Yeah, it's an S.
S, is it an S?
Yes, ma'am. An S.
It's an S, okay.
Those make sense because of the older B2, B3, B3R, what C and CC replaced it, so.
Correct. It just wasn't reflected
On the
in on our chart. So that first category kind of easy because it just makes a special use for CN and CC. Now the second one, we're talking about residential single-family attached, which is really similar to townhomes, right? And determining, sometimes there's a difference. Townhomes and residential single-family attached are basically the same thing, except the difference would be the ownership pattern. Whereas sometimes you will have townhomes and they are owned by one company and they're rented out to each individual household, each unit. And it might be 6 townhomes on one parcel. But you can also have residential single-family attached where you have 6 attached units and each unit is subdivided, but they're attached. So the firewall is where the lot line goes through that particular property, and that particular unit is privately owned. So with that being said, looking at the chart, this was not included in some areas that encourages mixed use between commercial and residential. So we wanted to make sure that we added it to the chart. And then if you notice, you'll see some items that are not in, let me see that category, in UCMX. And the reason we didn't include it in UCMX because it requests and talks about and states that the desired type of use is more of a real mixed use where you have a vertical mixed use where it's retail on the first floor and then multifamily or residential on the floors above it. So in those cases where we know that type of unit couldn't fit there, like a single family detached or a single family attached or a duplex or a triplex, we knew that wouldn't fit into UCMX because it's supposed to be vertical, right? And you know, a duplex and a triplex typically is side by side. Single family attached is typically side by side. And then, of course, single family detached is side by side. So we knew it wouldn't fit in UCMX because that's vertical.
That's what it shows online that it is included in that.
And I have a question.
That is included in UCMX? It is for single family. Well, that was a bad example. Was single family attached?
It shows that it's supposed to be included in single family attached, right? Is that what are you saying it's supposed to be or not supposed to be? 'Cause
It's really not supposed to be.
then that needs to be taken out.
Yeah.
So now, for single family attached, nothing is highlighted.
For single family attached,
There's nothing highlighted.
do you see green peas? If it was,
No.
Yes.
That's what I'm,
The green peas here.
yeah. The green peas mean they were added.
This is
okay, I
changing it
thought
to
it
S.
was
Yeah.
highlighted.
If it's green, that means it was added. If it was written in black, it was not.
Yeah, then I'll take it.
What,
What I have is, must have changed.
which ones are green?
These are all green here. This row, and this is a green too. That one is already there. Those are black. The one green is being added there.
Okay, I can hardly
It's
tell
in
the
the,
difference
it's in the
between the
verbiage.
green
It
and the.
just wasn't, these things were not included in our,
So what's the
table.
difference between a green pea and a highlighted?
The highlighted should be a special use.
Oh, okay, so highlighted is special, okay.
So which version is right? The one that Ruth's reading the legal document.
I think y'all are looking at something different.
Y'all are.
I have the actual
Document.
ordinance that I'm looking at, but
Yes.
y'all are looking at the paper, and the ordinance says something different from what the paper shows.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to double check, but I didn't have this, but and y'all don't have this, so.
So which one's right?
The one that you all have are the ones that have the added uses. So that's the one we're looking at to change the uses. In the ordinance, it doesn't even have permitted. It's not permitted at all because it's not being reflected properly.
Okay.
What I'm looking at, what y'all decide, that's what I'm trying to make sure what gets brought before. I'm looking at the written out legal side of it.
Yeah.
So
If I show you.
I'm trying to make sure what you all decide is matching up with what I have written.
See, whereas a lot of these residential uses should be in
I thought you gave y'all.
It should be on the ordinance.
Right. It's included,
But I filled them in on the documents that y'all looking at.
but the dwelling unit, single family attached, and UCMS, yes or no?
Correct. You say that again?
Single family, dwelling unit, single family attached in UCMS,
No.
No.
so it's blank.
Yes, it should be blank.
Okay.
And in the actual ordinance is blank right now.
Yes, but on the legal document that Ruth's reading,
I may have added it on mistake.
yes.
That's why I'm just
Okay.
making sure.
I'm clear.
Yeah.
And then the dwelling unit townhouse, all across the board is a special case, special exception. Where it says P, they're all highlighted, those are all going to change to S.
I'd say yes.
That's why I'm taking
I can't even see the color on there.
What did you ask for?
dwelling unit townhouse, mine shows P all the way, but they're all highlighted.
It's still P.
It's still going to be good.
It's a-
And on that one I did P all the way across. Because I treated it the same way it would be with single family attached. With the exception, as she said too, the UCMX put an X through that. Because that's supposed to be vertical mixed use. So when you think of UCMX, the only things that should be permitted are those uses that could be vertical, could be built vertically. For example, multifamily and live-work unit are the only ones that should be really permitted in UCMX for residential, because that's more vertical development where you have retail on the first floor, and then you can have apartments above it. No, that's what I was saying, scratch X for UCMX under townhouses. So live, work,
So where are we at? 'Cause
They're on the
I'm
use
still back
chart.
on Single family attached, did we move to duplex and triplex?
yeah, we skipped ahead. He asked a question
Down to townhouse.
about townhouses.
So UCMX is to be taken out?
Yeah, UCMX is only permitted for multifamily and live-work unit. Because the language for that particular zoning class states specifically that it should be vertical mixed use. Okay. Moving on to duplex and triplex. Similar to what's mentioned before, of course, it's a part of single-family attached, residential mixed medium density, residential mixed high density, commercial neighborhood, community commercial, commercial regional, central business district, which is primarily downtown, and then office mixed use. And as you see, is not included in UCMX. Okay, we go to live-work unit. A live-work unit will be permitted in zones residential for multifamily, medium density, residential multifamily, high density, residential, community commercial, community regional, central business district, urban corridor mixed use, because it can go vertical, of course, and office mixed use.
So
Yeah, I just reiterated it.
Okay.
So when I describe where it's used, I also include where it's already permitted. And then I just include the additional zoning classes where it's included. Next, we have multifamily, which is permitted in all the zones: mixed medium density, residential mixed high density, community commercial, commercial regional, central business, urban corridor mixed use, office mixed use, and then multifamily is permitted as special exception in commercial neighborhood. And that was already in the ordinance, so that's not a new addition. And again, it's trying to protect that transition zone from going to a neighborhood into a more dense development. Okay, next we have dwelling unit for townhouses. Dwelling unit, a townhouse will be permitted in zones residential single family, attached, residential mixed medium density, residential mixed high density, commercial neighborhood, community commercial, commercial regional, central business, take out urban corridor mixed use, and then office mixed use is where it's also included. I'm gonna give you all a bit of context the way they describe the urban corridor mixed use. Okay, the purpose of the urban corridor mixed use district is to provide lands that support redevelopment of gateway corridors leading to downtown. It is intended to provide the flexibility and encouragement to redevelop lands in a way that results in unique destinations rather than strip development patterns, and achieves high quality design and encourages and supports mixed use, pedestrian friendly development. Community and neighborhood commercial, office, lodging, and government uses are allowed, as well as multifamily dwelling units. Mixed-use development in the form of residential and non-residential uses within the same building is encouraged. And that's why I knew, based on that definition, that they meant vertical mixed use. Our definition of mixed use in the ordinance actually says that we can have mixed use on a parcel and not necessarily in a building. In fact, you'll be seeing some zoning cases next week where that's the case, where you'll have mixed use on a parcel, but not necessarily in one structure, which is why the urban corridor specifically spells that out, that is looking at more vertical, kind of in the old ways that they used to develop downtowns, where you might have a bakery downstairs and then an apartment upstairs, or 3 floors of apartments above it. That's the concept of the urban corridor mixed use.
I have a question
Yes, ma'am.
regarding the residential housing in the commercial, in the business districts.
Yes.
Is there a different requirement for parking that applies to location in a business district as opposed to in a residential district?
It does. Of course, in the regular residential district, they're doing off-street parking. In the urban corridors and the mixed-use development, there's options for shared parking, if you make an agreement with a neighbor or what have you, and on-street parking on a property. But I'll speak specifically to that. Like under urban corridor mixed use, it says a minimum of 50% of required parking for new development shall be to the side or rear of the principal building. So each district has its different set of parking requirements. Let me see if I can find another. Parking in the central business district. Along any street frontage, all proposed new or additional off-street parking areas shall be located to the rear or side of the development's principal building.
And that's for, so is the parking requirement the same for a business as well as a residential in a business district? Or are there two separate parking?
There are two separate parking requirements. So if a business came, there's a specific parking requirement for that business.
Okay. Okay.
If a residential came, it would have a parking requirement for that residential. Yeah.
Requirement for that, okay.
Or, of course, they could do shared parking. Okay. Any more questions related to the residential changes? Okay, moving to section 7, and this happens to be a real case and an issue. There's a real estate deal waiting to happen based on this particular case here, this zoning text amendment. Down to the category civic institutional, under the subcategory community service, the principal use animal shelter within the principal use table should be hereby amended as follows. So an animal shelter initially was not permitted in agriculture. And we all know in the agriculture zoning, you can have farms, you can raise cattle, poultry farms, any of that. So with that being said, an animal shelter should pretty much be permitted in agriculture zoning. So animal shelter will be permitted in agriculture and light industrial. Then an animal shelter will be a special exception use in zones institutional, community commercial, and commercial regional. And the reason we changed that over to a special use in those particular zones, because you'll have more residential in those areas. And typical animal shelters have dog runs and outdoor play parks, and sometimes the animals could be a bit noisy. So in order for that to occur, they would have to go before BOZA to get permission to open up an animal shelter in institutional zoning, in community commercial, and in commercial regional. And initially, this was straight up permitted in these zones until one of our zoning text amendment committee members kind of brought to our attention that, would you really want that automatically going into those areas? And typically with an animal shelter, you wouldn't. Now, the next section deals with some.
Interject, I think the last one for light industrial needs to be a P. It has an S in the chart.
It has it on the,
Yeah, and then next to it, industrial. Didn't you just mention that it's allowed in industrial?
light industrial.
Light
Yeah,
industrial, but not industrial?
No.
Oh, okay, only light, okay. Well, it seems like if you would allow it in light industrial, you would allow it in industrial.
Not necessarily. In industrial zoning classes, you have a more intense industrial use. It could be noise, it could be pollution. You know, people care for that.
Eagles howling at machines all around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what are your thoughts on the animal shelter?
Anybody have any more questions or comments on that? Okay, I think we're good. Chad?
Okay. Now this particular case is one where we have seen where an animal shelter was permitted, but a veterinary clinic was not. So we want to go back and rectify that. And the animal shelter is far more intense than a veterinary clinic. In fact, our definition of a veterinary clinic states that you only can board animals for a short term. With an animal shelter, you can board animals for a long term. A lot of times, animal shelters hold animals until they can be adopted. So we wanted to right that wrong by allowing veterinary clinics to be able to be permitted where the animal shelter was permitted or is permitted at the same time. However, let me go to this section. However, the veterinary clinic is also permitted in several of the commercial uses, and a lot of times a veterinary clinic, animal grooming parlor, those are common in commercial areas and they don't board animals for a long time. So that's why they are permitted in so many areas, except it was not permitted in institution, and we wanted to make sure it was permitted in institutional uses. So this reads, the veterinary, hospital, or clinic will be permitted in agricultural, institutional, commercial neighborhood, community commercial, commercial regional, central business, urban corridor mixed use, office mixed use, light industrial, and major employment center plan development and traditional neighborhood plan development. So this expanded where a veterinary hospital could be located by one category, which is institutional. And if the animal shelter was permitted in institutional, why shouldn't an animal shelter, a veterinary clinic? Okay, any questions about that category?
It just seems like with institutional, I think of schools, hospitals, churches.
Yeah, but they are also adjacent to business areas too, so,
Okay.
yeah. So a lot of institutional uses are really mixed in commercial. Typically, when I think of institutional, it's a lot of times it's associated or affiliated with government in some kind of way. For example, where we have the Horton House, and in that area, it could easily be considered institutional. Because it's related to government, it's a museum, it's something related to kind of like where they have a lot of visitation, but not necessarily like a business, but a place of learning or where you can kind of expand your horizons. That's what we typically think about when we say institutional. And so a lot of times that's mixed in with commercial too, so.
Yeah, it just,
Well, I
in my
just-
mind, it just seems that an animal shelter
Me too.
next to a school or a hospital, it just,
Right.
in my mind, it just doesn't.
Which is why we changed the animal shelter to a special use.
Okay,
Not the veterinary clinic, because, the veterinary clinic, typically the animals come and go, they address it, and then the owners take them back home, and they don't board animals for a long time.
Okay.
But with an animal shelter, you're correct, you're
Okay,
correct.
I got it, okay.
So animal shelter is not in an institution, right?
No, it's special use.
Special use.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing about an animal shelter and institutional too, when you think of animal shelters, a lot of times the local government owns them, so, yeah.
Running it. Yeah.
And typically, they're not going to put them in the institution anyway. They're going to find land somewhere else
Okay.
and put it that way, in one of those locations. Okay, moving on to Section 9. This is under civic institution, under the category transportation. And
What
What
page?
page you on now?
Because I don't see it, section 9.
okay, I'm sorry. I call it section as I talk about the category. It's section 25-4.2.2. And this is under the principal use table. So look under rail transportation support facility.
Sales and, it's the other page, next page.
Rail transportation?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this has kind of been triggered by some activity that's been happening about inland transportation facilities and multimodal facilities. We have a lot of areas in our city that are zoned for industrial, but what we probably don't want is intermodal facilities coming into our major corridors where we have industrial along our major thoroughfares and creating a traffic problem with semi-trucks and 18-wheelers and heavy equipment coming into those areas. So as a rail transportation support facility, we're not saying that we don't want them. However, we're saying that they should go through a proper and thorough review. So with that being said, a rail transportation support facility is a special exception use in zone industrial.
Where's that at?
Well, yeah,
That's on the use table.
I'm not seeing it.
I'm lost.
I'm not either.
So in our handout, yeah, which page?
What page is it?
In our handout. It's got
freight movement, wholesale sales, we doesn't have.
What page is that? Is that 4.7 or 4-7?
Yep, look under 4-4.
4-4?
Oh, y'all don't have the ordinance.
Yeah.
I got a question. I ain't picking on you. Do y'all, everyone have an ordinance? We're gonna make sure everyone has an ordinance.
Where is,
It's not on, it should be on, I probably don't have that part of the table covered, but it's located on 4-4 in the actual ordinance.
We don't
okay, we don't
have that.
have that. We have
It's not on that page.
422, it's under transportation, but
It's-
it's not in your packet.
It's not in your packet. Well, I'll explain what's in the ordinance. So basically, in the ordinance, a rail transportation support facility is permitted in industrial zoning. All that we're saying is that it becomes a special use in that zoning. And to be honest, rail transportation support facility is permitted in all of our commercial districts, which we do not want. That's too much heavy traffic, too much 18-wheeler traffic, and we already have an issue with semis and 18-wheelers getting off the truck route, going through neighborhoods and communities where they're not supposed to be. So we're looking at taking it out, of course, of some of the commercial districts, but most definitely making it a special use.
Which ones on the business systems are key?
RP, all of them.
Well, I mean, which one are we proposing on the table?
On the table, we have it for I. We'll actually probably change where it's all P to S's.
So wait. You're changing rail transportation support facility to us as the whole way across?
Well, yeah, I haven't stated that. I have it that way for rail transportation support facility, specifically just for industrial. I didn't realize that that wasn't the only category we need to do that for, so we are going to do it all the way where they have it where it's permitted in the commercial districts.
Wait, I'm still confused. Here where it says rail transportation support, it says permitted for all these uses. It's all going to be S's
Yes,
instead of P's?
yeah,
That's not written.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. I changed it for industrial, but I need to do it for the rest of them as well.
It's going to be special use for
Industrial.
CCC or CB, UCMX, OMX, LI, and I is what you're saying.
Yeah,
correct?
we actually probably will pull it out of the some of the commercial districts, but keep it in industrial.
Seems to me you go exactly the opposite, make it
Special use.
for commercial and.
Put a P
Because
in
if
industrial.
We have so many properties that are industry properties that have rail now.
Okay,
So if we make it special for industry, everybody up and down the river's got a rail spur.
Yeah, that's going to be the problem,
Yeah,
to
because
make it special.
that would make it challenging for even recruiting industry, I think. If we have to get special permission, we can't guarantee they can get rail access.
right. But I think one of the arguments for that is too, when we have to look at, get a little more detail about the truck routes, where it's located, and that sort of thing. I think that's why it was proposed in that way, just simply so we'll have, not saying we won't permit it, with special use permits, typically it doesn't 100% mean that use will be permitted, but at the same time, it doesn't mean it's not permitted. It kind of means it's a little bit of oversight and getting details in that actual use, like about where it's going to be located, how much traffic, the size, and that sort of thing.
And I understand the truck traffic,
Yeah,
but the rail traffic in an
It's a-
industry should absolutely be permitted, in my opinion.
yeah,
If it's an S, that means it has to go before both.
yeah,
I
Which,
think that's,
which means it could be denied, it takes a month to
Yeah.
do that. And
Yeah.
when we're recruiting industry, they want to know, can I get rail on this property?
right. So you say flip it.
Yeah, I say you permit it in industry and light industry, and in all business classes, make it
special use, yeah.
or commercial classes.
But Chad, are you also trying to differentiate between a rail spur and an intermodal transport form? And they're two different
Well,
issues,
I mean, by definition, because we looked at the definitions too. Let me read the definition of rail support facility. It says a rail transportation support facility are all facilities necessary or useful in rendering rail transportation service by means of rail, bus, water, and any other mode of travel, including without limitation, tracks, right-of-way, bridges, tunnels, subways, rolling stock for rail, motor vehicles, stations, terminals, areas for parking, and all equipment, fixtures, buildings, and structures and services incidental to or required in connection with the performance of transit service. And I think that's why the recommendation came forward about the S, just because it includes so many modes of transportation in the definition.
I think what's scary is without limitation, right?
What's that?
When it says without limitation.
Yeah.
What you do have to look at
We
the plan for transportation, and I understand access to rail, so maybe we should think more about it.
yeah, because it could be a lot of detail in it, you know? A lot of detail in defining exactly what kind of project might come as a result of it. And you know, this probably came about from the conversation about they're looking for spaces in cities in North Alabama with good rail connectivity, but we do have a lot of industrial land near the interior of our city and near downtown and stuff. So just a little more oversight.
Well, and I mean, I understand that, and from an overall big picture strategy, those properties that are in the downtown areas that are industrial should be rezoned.
Correct.
Rather than limiting industrial properties everywhere by putting a special requirement on it.
Right.
I think we're using a sledgehammer when a little thump would do. Because, I mean, in all sites that are big, large industry from Nucor Steel all the way to the bridge, every industry site, every one of them has rail access now.
Correct.
We don't have a lot of vacant properties in the city anymore, or even in Morgan County that have rail sites. We've got 2 or 3, so there's not a lot to market. And if we make it a special requirement to be able to get rail on that site that already has a rail spur going through it, I mean, that's kind of, we're not going to get rail anywhere we don't already have it.
Gotcha. So, any thoughts or questions?
I agree with what he just said.
What's that?
I agree with
Yeah.
what he just said.
Well, we'll look at permitting in industry and making it special use in all the commercial districts and have that discussion. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Feel better about that, yes.
Again, is the problem we're trying to attack is commercial transfer point for moving cargo versus a privately owned rail spur. So if it's a industry that's on a rail, that needs a rail line,
Right.
has its own rail spur, then that's one thing. It doesn't come with the same problems as a commercially operated intermodal transfer point, which is working for multiple different industries and vendors.
And different connections.
And, well, maybe the same connections. It could be, rail to truck, rail to barge, barge to rail, whatever. But one's a private, much smaller operation that we really don't have a lot of concerns about because it's on their property alone, and without a lot of traffic. The other one is a very large facility with a large volume of traffic, and it's going to impact the entire neighborhood. So we need to differentiate between those two because I think we're trying to address one problem without affecting the other.
So that's a good point. So I'm moving on to the next definition, which deals exactly with what you're saying. So it says, in this section, it deals with motor freight terminal under the principal use table. And a motor freight terminal is a special exception use in the zone industrial. Let me look up motor freight terminal. So, a motor freight terminal is only permitted in industrial. And so we're recommending that we turn that to a special use. Any comments?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess the only thing I would say is that you, and I don't know this for sure, but I'm curious, do we have freight terminals existing in other zones?
Does that say
I
mobile
would
freight?
think we do.
No, it's right here.
All one offhand.
Oh, okay.
And what's interesting is on our chart,
Okay.
rail transportation support facility is treated like it's less intense than motor freight terminal. Yeah. When in reality, the converse is true.
What would happen in the situation if you left it like you proposed? Basically, would then create non-conforming existing zones with the district where a freight terminal exists. It's in an I. When they came before the planning commission for a site plan approval or anything else, are they gonna be compelled to rezone because they're non-conforming to the zoning ordinance at that point?
I mean, they could come and request for rezoning.
But they wouldn't have to.
They wouldn't have to, they're grandfathered in. Now, if damage happened to the facility to a certain degree, I think it's over 50%, then they would have to become a conforming use.
I guess, and I get that, but what I perceive, not a common occurrence, but a situation where you have somebody grandfathered in, we change the zoning ordinance, they have to come in for something that then would require them to get rezoned for an existing business.
Right.
What if they can't get rezoned? Are they gonna be able to continue to
Right.
operate?
It's probably best that they stand, I get what you're saying, with us changing the ordinance.
Yeah,
Some of them may become non-conforming uses anyway. We have a lot of them
yeah.
just because we changed the ordinance anyway.
Right.
We got a situation where we rezoned some property to CC, but the current land use and future land use appears to be LI. So in reality, we caught that error, so we're gonna go back and try to rectify it and have that person come before the planning commission for a rezoning. So that's gonna happen in some cases. His question was, what happens when we change the ordinance and may make a business or a use non-conforming? It may happen. It's possible, but if it's non-conforming, it can exist unless significant damage happens to the structure for which that use is being operated.
Then we also look at the hardships and,
Yeah.
see the business owner.
Yeah, we have mechanisms. Okay, so what do you all think about the motor freight terminal as a special exception use in zone industrial?
Seems like that would be a permitted use in industrial.
Yes, but it's kind of similar to the rail rail support facility. They kind of similar. I get it, but I think a lot of it has to do with where we don't have properties that are necessarily adequate for it. We have a lot of industrial, and to Blake's point, we have a lot of industrial on the side of town along 20. That's proper, but we do have industrial sites that are in different parts of the city where it might not necessarily fit if someone came in and just had a straight permitted use.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a distribution center.
Yes.
You've got a lot of trucks coming in and out. I'm thinking in Limestone County, the Decatur portion of Limestone County. So if someone wanted to put a distribution center there where they're gonna have all these trucks coming in and out, and they have, 50 acres or whatever, seems like that would be a permitted use and not a special.
It would be a permitted use if it was on already industrial. I know what you're talking about, but.
Well, there has a S here under industrial.
Right, so what we're recommending is a special use. Again, special uses doesn't necessarily mean that it's not permitted. It's really just another layer of oversight.
Yeah.
So, and that's something we really have to probably educate Boza on too, because a lot of times when we change something to a S, some things fit and it go with the zoning, and we're just doing that for oversight. We're doing it to see what the details are of that specific project. That's the real reason behind a special exception. It may be a situation where they have to come get a special exception and it may not fit, but in most cases, in most occurrences, it typically would fit. And I think that the oversight again is that Boza get to ask more questions and get more detail about the project. And then not only that, of course, we're gonna make recommendations based on our professional expertise to Boza. But a lot of times that's basically it. It's not saying it's not permitted. It's just saying that we want to know what the details are.
I think that's the only place I think we're restricting a business if it's the only place that it's allowed and it's special. It's not.
No, that's a valid
I
point.
think legally, we can't restrict, because right now, that's the only place it's allowed.
Right, it just seems
So I
like
don't
that
think
should
there's a
be.
business that comes into industrial that is not going to have truck traffic.
Right.
I mean, I'm not
Right.
sure why that would be put as an S unless you were allowing another area permitted.
The only area where I see it could be an S in light industrial, but for industrial, I think it should be a P.
Right. Or maybe we should just leave it as a P in industrial.
That's good.
You don't need to restrict
Yeah.
it, because
Leave it as a P.
Yeah.
then we got to get into definitions,
Semantics.
a whole lot.
Okay.
Have a UPS place, I guess it was in town, State Docks Road.
Yeah.
Right.
What's going on there?
Okay. Well, I scratched that one.
All
So,
So P,
yeah, we'll leave it as is.
okay.
Under the category industrial, subcategory warehousing, freight movement, wholesales, we're going to discuss intermodal freight facility, an inland port and container yard and truck terminal and distribution center. So under the principal use table, under industrial warehousing, freight movement and wholesales, we have, this is actually a category we need to add. So, which is an intermodal freight facility, going back to kind of what we've discussed previously. And our recommendation is to make it a special exception use in industrial. The other uses that we want to also add, these aren't on the chart as of now, is inland port is a special exception use in zone industrial, and a container yard is a special exception use in zone industrial. Any comments, discussion?
Those aren't on our charts at all.
That's not on the chart at all.
Right, but it just, all of those seem like they should be permitted in industrial. It's just off the top of my head, without looking at specific
Is there a particular
businesses
reason?
or limits, you know, as to how many trucks or doors or whatever. It just seems like those categories that you mentioned that we don't have on our list
Right.
should be permitted in industrial.
Okay.
Is the concern just the impact?
It's the impacts. A lot of times, again, I'll reiterate, with special uses, and this may have to be a conversation and we learn about and train and do more training on. With special uses, typically, this is my perspective, it's not that it's not permitted, it's just a matter of gaining a greater understanding of how is this project going to happen specifically, like the same way we recommended, I don't mean to be the dead horse, the data center. It's the same kind of concept. Like, we're not saying you can't have it. We just want to know the details. We want you to give us more explanation. See, when something's permitted, they could bypass a discussion. They could bypass a public neighborhood meeting and just go straight into doing the development. And then of course, we're going to review it for the design and construction standards for that particular project, but we don't know the details and they don't have to make us privy to them. Whereas with a special use, we're not saying you can't do it. We ain't 100% saying you can, but chances are if we are saying special use, it's somewhat permitted in that district. It's just a matter of being able to come to the table and negotiate those things that are safety measures for the public. It's not saying, one or the other necessarily.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, can you go over those categories that you mentioned? I know you mentioned intermodal facility, but what are the other ones that aren't on our list?
Intermodal freight facility, an inland port, a container yard.
To me, those seem like they should be allowed in industrial.
Oh, absolutely.
They are.
I'm not saying that they are not allowed in industrial. They're just not straight up permitted. You have to come and give detail before you get permitted. It's just a level of oversight. And I mean, some cities choose to use BOZA in that way, and some cities do not. But again, I think
The only question, go ahead, Francine. The only other question about is, can we legally, is it appropriate to target a specific industry or operation such as containers, container yard?
right.
Business, can we target and just call them out as special versus permitted? I mean, we can do that, right?
That's something I will have to look into, but I think what you're referring to is exclusionary zoning. We're really not, we're really making these three particular categories more inclusive because we don't have a definition for them. So to say that we'll make them a special use is still being exclusionary, I'm not sure about that. I'll have to research a little more and work with Ruth on that. But, whether or not they have to be straight permitted, I don't know.
I think you can have a special use permitted on appeal, but these are new categories. I don't know these categories to know if it's, because it's allowing other things in that category. It may just be restricting one small part of an overall category, so you're not restricting the usage, it's just a very minute portion of a particular type. So I'd have to look into the definition.
Would you
Now, see-
argue that it's not necessarily restrictive, it's just getting more information in the front?
I think
It's
so.
kind of like
That's what I-
rent kind of stuff on construction.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
And I think you all should need as much upfront information upfront as possible to get the information from them. So in the back end, you won't have a problem.
I agree.
We did not know this, because they don't divulge everything if you don't ask them.
I think you can also put you can put conditions on these things in the definition. You don't have to necessarily put it all on the table. There are other ways to set conditions on things like we do in all the other areas. It's not all permitted or special exception. You can permit it, but there's a condition for allowing it.
Right, well,
So you can set parameters for things as well, which we do in the ordinance.
well, see, what I'm thinking is like, okay, if you have, 1,000 trucks a day, then yes, you need, to go, it would be a special exception. But if it's,
How will,
100,000 square feet and it's only 10 trucks a day, it might be intermodal, but it's so small until why have to go through BOZA and all of that?
that's a great example you just gave. And to your question, how will we know that? If it's straight permitted, they're gonna submit a site plan. They're gonna bring that to us for us to review. We're gonna see the size of the building. At that point, we have no room to negotiate. And that's why we like to use special uses. When you have a special use, you can approve things with conditions. You have enough knowledge to make an informed decision about what's going to happen. Not saying it's not going to happen. You could say certain things like, could you bolster your buffering, being that you're not that far from a residential property? Could you do more landscaping? What is the noise going to be like? Just things like that. When you straight up permit something, basically they could come in and say, what's the zoning? And we'll say, oh, it's industrial. And they'll say, okay, our use is permitted. It sure is. And from that point forward, they can move ahead. We can't tell them anything.
Well, what about having categories like industrial, if it's 50,000 square feet or less, it's permitted. You don't have to go through all these extra steps.
I mean,
Well, let me just say this. I think you need to go through, because when you're talking, like you say, some of these things are near residents. And you're gonna have backlash from the residents if you don't get all this information up front. You need to get as much information up front on these people coming in here that you can make a good decision. Because if you don't ask, they not gonna tell you. And then you're gonna end up with a problem with the neighborhood coming to you. Why are you permitting this mess in our neighborhood?
and then the truth is, if it's permitted,
That's exactly right.
in a way, we really can't tell them no. And if we do tell them no, they can come back against us legally. So, again, the special use or special exception is a tool for being able to scrutinize projects, not necessarily turn them down or saying they're not permitted. Special use just means that you got to come to the committee so we can see what's going on with this particular project. I'm going to give you a simplified example. For home occupations, daycares, we can't just permit daycares as a home occupation and approve that. All home daycares have to go before BOZA because they want to know how many children are going to be there, if there's adequate parking in the neighborhood, will it disturb anything else or be a nuisance to the neighbors? We're not saying you can't have a home daycare, it's just that they want to see what the details are for that particular project. And so when we propose special uses in the zoning text amendments, it's just to give more oversight.
If I can just interject something. For BOZA, with the daycares and home occupations, we did make changes similar to what Verna is discussing, so that it doesn't have to go before BOZA. Because what happens is we overwhelm a board, and that particular board, unfortunately, it's hard to get people to serve, and it's hard to get a quorum. So I think that it is sometimes better to preempt things. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I think they are both useful tools, but I think that is what you all need to navigate and decide, because I do think there were things that used to go before BOZA, and the agenda was 3 pages long, and the board members quickly got exhausted from having long meetings, long agendas. And it truly, you do have to weigh that. You're putting this on a group of 5 as opposed to making a decision that when someone comes in, they can see the ordinance and see clearly if my business falls under these parameters. You can change that in definitions, put conditions in the ordinance. It requires a whole lot more effort to do that, but that is something you can do, so that there are some that should be special exceptions, but there are other ways besides just using a special exception. You can do other things to help guide your businesses when they look at our ordinance.
Let me inject in this particular case. We don't even have definitions of these categories yet. We're talking about some things that we haven't even seen a written definition for category, much less all the considerations. That's going to come before us at some point. And I don't know that we need to continue to discuss these issues right here because we're not voting on anything. We got a whole lot of questions.
Gotcha. Well, we actually do have definitions, and that was going to follow that category. So we're gonna table that for the time being, and we'll have more discussions with our committee too.
I was gonna say, that there's an awful lot we can do with the site plan ordinance.
Right.
And set thresholds that would trigger a traffic study. If you're gonna have more than 20
That's a good
trucks,
point.
Right.
then you gotta submit a traffic impact study. If you're going to have a certain size or no certain number of rail cars, or if you're gonna have a crossing on a public road, I think a lot of places that our firm work, the site plan ordinance is where they catch it. They allow it, but if you expand
Parameters.
and create something that is going to potentially create a problem, then you've got to prove to be able to get site plan approval. And that's published in the ordinance too.
Yeah.
And they could see that ahead of time, and that way you're not limiting an industry to be in an industry district, an I district.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but you said it better than I did. That's what I was trying to say. There are other ways
Right.
to catch some of this without having to be all on one board.
Yes.
And
Heavy burden.
for example, in the home daycare, the DHR oversight of those processes actually helped us say, we really don't have to deal with this because they can't get a license and a permit and move forward if they can't even meet the requirements of DHR, which are much more stringent than what we would require. So,
And when we take the applications, if they don't have approval,
yeah.
you know, they can't go. Well, this is something that's simple. Okay, residential temporary signs, this is particularly speaking of signage for whenever a neighborhood is constructed and they have multiple lots for sale. I think
Where are we?
this is under section 25-5.9.6.
What page?
Let's find it.
It's gonna be 592 or somewhere in there.
5-3?
5-93.
5-93.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're in the 98 square.
5-, okay.
Do you find it? 593. Okay.
Okay. Let me see which number it is. Number 2.
A, or, oh, it's B,
3? Is it 3?
so that's page 94.
It's on page 594 under subcategory B, residential temporary signs, number 2.
We don't have, I don't have a 590,
It should be on there.
593.
We stopped at 5-93. Talks about the temporary.
But it's not B2. That's
Yeah.
a different subsection.
You see it, it says, in residential districts, temporary signs advertising multiple lots.
No, I don't have that.
You don't think
Their practice doesn't have the correct page.
construction signs?
32 square feet.
Yeah.
We have nothing for residential.
You don't see anything about the size of the sign?
Yeah, on 5-93, item 3, talks about temporary signs
That's for
for
construction.
construction
That's a different-
activities.
That's a different section of what he's citing.
It's
It
construction.
has the same numbers on that page, but
Yeah.
it's not the correct page. This is why this ordinance is very difficult to read. because
Well, let me explain this section. So, in this particular section, this is about where you have neighborhoods with construction signs, say a new subdivision being built, and it's advertising multiple lots. We want to increase the size that they're allowed to have as their sign marketing those lots. So, the way it reads here, in residential districts, temporary signs advertising multiple lots, when placed on streets classified as a collector or higher, that have a maximum area of 6 square feet and a maximum height of 6 feet and are a minimum of 10 feet away from any public right-of-way may be located in.
That's not the section that's being shown.
This is the section that we're changing though. I'm explaining.
Oh, I thought you were putting.
No, no.
I'm sorry.
And so,
That's what they.
so what we aim to do with this text amendment is that increase the size of those signs. There's been a lot of complaints that those signs marketing the available lots in the neighborhood that's for sale and newly constructed, whereas we only offer them 6 square feet and a maximum height of 6 feet, we are wanting to change that to having a maximum area of 32 square feet, which is the typical size because it shows a rendering of the neighborhood or maybe some lots and so forth, and a maximum height of 10 feet. So we're increasing that size for the marketing of subdivisions. So it's going from 6 square feet to 32 square feet and a maximum height of 10 feet instead of 6 feet. And I think this request came from the mayor. I think a lot of the developers, the subdivision developers, were complaining that that's too small, and rightfully so. 6 square feet is
It's nothing.
nothing.
Well, this is on the one place on the site.
Right.
Okay.
And it has to be a minimum of 10 feet away from any public right-of-way and may be located in the required front, rear, or side yard. Just one sign. Because on the previous part, it also says that it has to be located, temporary signs may be placed on a lot of building that is actively being marketed for sale or rent. 5-94 for the residential temporary sign part. Trying to find that section where it says it has to be located on the major collector going into the subdivision, but they're only allowed to have one.
B2, it's under B2, under residential temporary signs. It's, B2 is what they're talking about.
Here it is. Yeah, that's it, number 2. On the previous page, it says temporary signs may be placed on a lot where construction activities are being performed as evidenced by an active building permit. Such signs shall not be illuminated, shall be limited to one such sign per street frontage, and shall have a maximum sign area of 6 square feet each if located in a residential district. And then it says, or 32 square feet each if located in any other district. So that's why we're allowing 32 square feet also in the residential district, in the subdivision. Okay. We have some more. What time is it? Ooh, I didn't mean to keep y'all this long, but the zoning text amendment is going to be some work. I'm going to just review these definitions for you. You don't have to make a decision, just so we'll go through it. These are new definitions that we want to add. A container yard, a facility or designated area used for temporary storage, staging, inspection, maintenance, repair, loading, unloading, or transfer of intermodal shipping containers, trailers, chassis, or related freight equipment before or after transportation by rail, truck, barge, freight, or freight modes. This is the next definition is something we need to change and make a correction to. And one of the first items we spoke with the Zoning Text Amendment Committee about. In our ordinance, it says director. It doesn't explicitly say what kind of director, anything like that, so we wanted to clarify. In terms of the zoning ordinance, I think initially before I was hired as the planning director, the only director that was referenced kind of was the building director. Well, not the building director, but the development director. But it specifically should read the planning director being over the zoning ordinance. So under the definition of director, it says the planning director of the city of Decatur is the amendment that we want. Initially, it said the director of the city of Decatur, Alabama. It didn't specify. So we want to clarify to say planning director. Next is a definition for distribution center. It's a facility primarily engaged in the receipt, storage, sorting, consolidation, packaging, fulfillment, and distribution of goods or freight for shipment to retail, commercial, industrial, institutional, or wholesale customers. Distribution centers may include warehousing, inventory management, cross-docking operations, administrative offices, and accessory uses, but does not include manufacturing as a principal use. Another definition, this already existed, I think, or is similar to what we already have. It's freight logistics use. A land use that supports or is functionally related to an intermodal freight facility or inland port, including distribution centers, warehouses, fulfillment centers, cross-docking facilities, container yards, truck terminals, rail logistics facilities, fleet maintenance facilities, freight forwarding operations, and similar logistics-related activities generating significant commercial truck traffic. What y'all think about that definition? Any comment? I think it's kind of all-encompassing. So we might could use that to replace, put on our chart. Next, the definition of inland port. A regional freight transportation and logistics complex connected to one or more seaports or major freight corridors through rail, highway, waterway, or other transportation infrastructure. An inland port typically includes one or more intermodal freight facilities together with warehouses, distribution centers, truck terminals, container yards, rail logistics facilities, customs operations, manufacturing support services, and other freight-related support uses.
Do they not have this?
No, we don't have.
No, these just definitions.
But they needed to have this.
Yeah, I thought they had a packet for all this stuff, but I got jokes. I'm gonna get this to you all, because we're gonna have to meet on it again, so.
Exactly.
So, the last definition is intermodal freight facility or intermodal logistics center. A facility, designed for the transfer of freight between two or more modes of transportation, including rail, truck, barge, or air. Such facilities may include rail terminals, container yards, cross-docking facilities, truck terminals, warehouses, distribution centers, maintenance facilities, fueling facilities, customs operations, administrative offices, and accessory uses supporting intermodal freight movement. And then the last potentially new definition is rail transportation support facility. We already have a definition for that. So basically, we added language that says this also includes, but is not limited to, utilizing railroad infrastructure for the loading, unloading, transfer, storage, assembly, classification, staging, or distribution of freight, commodities, containers, or equipment between rail transportation and other transportation modes. And that's it. And I'll get y'all the actual zoning text amendments. I thought I didn't email them to you all.
Let me just say this.
Yeah, they
think I
didn't
did.
include the definitions. We don't
Oh,
have that
okay.
information. What we have here before us is what you sent to us.
Okay.
And if I could make a comment, that dark green highlighting, if that could be a lighter color, because I have a problem.
Well, the
trying to
print
read
doesn't come
that.
through, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did send them, but I won't print off what you sent yesterday.
Oh.
This is that for,
Yeah, I think I did send the actual amendments.
I thought.
What I read.
What I was printing off was then combined.
Right. Now, this is just the document. What I'll do is next time I'll make sure I send them at the same time. So I sent the zoning text amendments, which I read to you all first, and then I sent this. And this is really so you can read in the document and follow along. What I recommend and what I'll do better with next time is if you all will bring your zoning ordinance, or if you need a copy, let us know, we'll get you one. But bring your zoning ordinance. I'll do this, of course, and then we'll also reference the pages so you can go to the page and follow along and get more context.
Are we doing something for food trucks?
Actually, we are. And
Let me just say,
did y'all get a copy of that? Y'all have a copy of that?
Yes,
let me
we
tell you,
got that.
Now, the food truck zoning text amendment is actually going to be on a planning commission meeting. So basically,
Which one?
the one next week. It was advertised. We didn't advertise it? Okay, it won't be then.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay, we didn't advertise it, so we'll go ahead and discuss it anyway. But we were trying to put it on next week's agenda, but it didn't make it. So basically, we have locations where food trucks were permitted by the city council. And the ordinance, it speaks of locations where they could be located. We wanted to add a few additional locations. And in addition to that, some things have changed since then. For example, when they initially proposed the locations for the food trucks around, say, the farmer's market, the actual location for the food trucks would be where the parking lot, where the angle parking is now for the farmer's market. And the farmer's market have food trucks on site, so that caused the conflict. So we were looking for another location to move the food trucks in relationship to the farmer's market, which would be kind of under the underpass and a little bit beyond it, so that way they could be off-site and they're not a part of the farmer's market, because the farmer's market have an agreement with individuals who on a first-come, first-served basis to have their food truck there on Saturdays. But in this particular location, if they give us notification, they can locate there any time of the week between certain periods of time. So what we did was on this, in the ordinance, we're going to amend the locations where they could be found. Some of these haven't changed. Like, for example, the first picture that you see would be adjacent to the Arts College. And that's a location adjacent to their parking lot.
So is that actually on the street?
That's it.
What street is that? That First Street
What's that, Lee?
or Lee?
It's across from the jail.
Across from the jail. And
Yes, across from the jail. Yeah, first, across from the jail and adjacent to the Arts College. In the parallel parking spaces.
Okay.
Okay.
This is first. Here's the jail.
Yeah, that's the jail, that's First Street, okay.
Say what?
They're eating corn dogs and looking at the food truck. This is cool.
Hey, is that Green Point Ag's parking lot?
What's that?
No,
No.
no, that's for the, that's for the.
Okay, now that location had already previously been approved. But since we're adding this appendix showing the locations where the food trucks could be, we added them all to it. Okay, the next site is on Kane Street, which is adjacent to City Hall, right outside, across from the post office in the federal. And it's adjacent to City Hall, again, across from the post office in the old federal building on Kane Street. The third location, and if you notice, we have a number of trucks that could be located at the site whenever they're present. So in the case of the first location, adjacent to the Arts College, there's a maximum of 5. On Kane Street, adjacent to City Hall, a maximum of 5. And then the farmer's market, mobile food vendor location, we moved it further off the site because, as mentioned, the farmer's market has a first come, first serve registration for food trucks. So this offers an overflow space for other food trucks. And they can also park there during the week. And this is located kind of under the underpass and a little bit past prior to going into it. All the food trucks have to park with their serving side facing the sidewalk.
I'm sorry, Jay, back up. What's the first come, first served agreement?
There's some agreement where they open it up for food trucks to come and work at the farmer's market. And I'm not sure if they have to do this every week or what have you, but we had an issue where a food truck came to us to participate at the farmer's market, and where they were previously located, of course, we agreed and said City Council approved that location, but it caused a conflict with the farmer's market because they didn't want it to detract from their business of the food trucks that they invited to participate at the farmer's market.
These three in that spot, and then the farmer's market where they approve someplace else.
Yeah, on their site. They actually have people approved on their site. And I think it's actually in the back part of the parking lot.
Do these all go with what's listed on section 2544 for the mobile food vending? They have all the locations listed there. Is this?
Does it have actual?
It just says they're allowed any space, I mean, there's all different places they're allowed under the new ordinance.
Right.
So this is,
And
showing all of them, or is this?
No, the map is showing all of the locations that were previously approved. Now, the document doesn't have a map. What it says is that the planning department has a map of the locations. And that's where I changed the language to say, see appendix.
And so
Right.
you can actually see where it is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
One of these just says on any lot containing a commercial use that is not classified in a residential district.
Yeah, that's outside of downtown.
Just the generic.
Right.
I'm just making sure that what you're putting here complies with. what's
Yeah,
written.
there's a section that specifically says that we have a map of the locations, and I say see map on Appendix B for the City of Decatur mobile food truck zones. So I call that out to go to that section.
That's why I just want to make sure that it all falls into what we have written.
Okay, the next location for mobile food vendors is, of course, Founders Park. Initially, they were located, I would say, on the kind of southwest corner, and it was actually in the parking lot area. And so You know, sometimes people say they would have events and it would take up some of the parking. When in actuality, when you go a bit further north and you know the lot is kind of angled, you'll see where we have like it's a pad or a walkway that's perfect for food trucks. In fact, one of the conversations that came out of this discussion was that that'll be a great location for a food truck park, because you probably could create an aisle of like probably 6 or 7 food trucks on each side, and then it wouldn't interrupt the parking. It'll be in the center of the park, and then you can have activities in the park. So that's where we're looking at locating the Founders Park mobile food vendor location. We have on here a maximum of 5 daily, but in the event that there is an event, it can accommodate more than 5.
Is that across from Old State Bank?
It's
Yes.
right in front of it.
Okay.
It's like a little mall kind of, yeah, walkway mall. The last location is further down on, I want to say Lee Street, almost near the intersection of Oak Street. There's an area where there's a new business coming, and actually this was a recommendation from DDRA that this might be a good location to have food vendors in that area where some of the new businesses located in the area can go and enjoy fare from food trucks. So at Lee and Oak Street is another location we've identified. Now, the way that this works is Josiah in our office, we take the lead on food trucks. So whenever a food truck register with us, we give them the information about where the locations are. They contact Josiah and let us know where they're going to locate. We're also responsible for making sure that they have a commissary where they take their waste for the oils and stuff from the truck and bring it to a specific location. So we keep tabs on that, and we like to know where all the food trucks are. We've caught food trucks on parking lots where they didn't have permission, so we kind of do the enforcement on that as well. And that's all we have. Yes, ma'am.
We didn't get through all this, it's on the next section, let's go through all these others and we can get on the sheet.
Now the stuff that you have in there, that's extra. We hadn't gotten to it. Everything I went down on the list today was all that we were going to address today. Some of the additional stuff that wasn't covered, I'm going to bring it to you at another time, because it's so much stuff, so much. Oh yeah, we will. We'll get to it. Just to give you a heads up, another change we'll be making soon is, for example, a real estate lot, a RE1 residential lot, has a minimum lot size of 3 acres. But in the ordinance, it says that it should be 1 acre, but we're going to leave it at 3 acres and make sure the language is changed. I got that mixed up. Agriculture lots, the minimum size should be 1 acre. And the agriculture lot for residential should be the largest lot. We need to change that to 5 and make sure RE is 3. Yeah. So we have little changes like that we have to address that weren't caught when the ordinance was.
The other one was the, talked about 75% of permitted land.
Yep. Another thing that'll be coming, before you all is in the CC zoning. We have a maximum buildable area of 40%, which is less than half of a lot, meaning that if you have a 100-acre lot, you only can build on 40 acres. So we're going to change that. And the reason that it was written that way is to leave more open space, but a lot of developments can't accommodate that. We recently talked about one today that will, which is interesting, but typically it doesn't. It's difficult for a developer to only use 40% maximum buildable area. So we're looking to increase that between 75, 85%. Okay, I'll get this to you all before the next meeting next month, and hopefully we'll vote on it. Would you all want a separate meeting to vote on this, or would you want to roll this into a regular planning commission meeting?
It needs to be in a regular, because the public needs to know it's going to be when we normally have meetings.
Okay.
That's something that, when the change this large, it needs to be,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't know you were going to ask it, but that's something the public needs to be aware of at a regular planning.
Well, they'll make the meeting longer, so it's gonna make it long. No, next month. Next month. Yes, yes.